Great, great. Yeah. So let us start this session. I hope my voice is audible. Let me share my screen. 1 minute. Yeah, please let me know whether my screen is also visible so that we can start our session. Okay, that's great. Yeah. So in our previous sessions, we have started with functions and we have seen what do you mean by function and how to declare a function and what do you mean by a function? What is the difference between your function in System Verilog and function in Verilog? And also we have started the discussion of the basic fundamentals of a function, like what is the syntax of a function, what is a return type, what do you mean by input argument, what do you mean by output argument of a function, and how to have a how to basically return a function variable or result. Okay. And next we have also seen about this void functions, right? And this and all we have seen, and we have also seen about static functions and automatic functions we have also seen, and afterwards we have started with pass by value and pass by name, pass by reference. Okay, so this and all things we have started and discussed in our previous sessions. Now, uh, last final question from this particular function is, let's say if I'm going to have two functions. Okay, so let's say if I have a function declared function void display one. Let's say the function name is function void display one. Something is present and some set of lines is present in this particular function display one, right? And let's say if we have one more function void display two. Okay, and this is having some set of lines of codes in this particular thing, right? Now let's say if I'm calling this function display two in my function display one. Now, what do you think? Is it going to run, or is it going to give any error if I'm going to call one function inside another function? If I'm going to call display one inside my, sorry, if I'm going to call display two, not display one, if I'm going to call display two from display one, is it going to work or not? If I'm going to call display two from display one, okay, only one response I've got. What about this? Okay, error, okay. If I'm going to call display 2 from display 1, what I'm going to get? Is there any error in that or is it going to run? Okay, let us check it out. Let me open the playground, EDA playground, and let us check it out whether what are we going to get. I hope my screen is visible, right? Yeah. So let us check it out. What are we going to get if I'm going to take a model, which is example, and here I'm going to declare a function of void type display one, and it is just going to display it is going to call another function which is display 2. Okay, and it is going to display, okay, just end function. Okay, and what are we going to do is, let me copy this and let me paste it over here. Okay, this is display 2 function, and what are we going to write down here is $display called display. Okay, this is what we have written over here, and within an initial beginning block, what I'm going to write down is I'm going to call my display function, display one function. Okay. And let us check it out. What are we going to have? Let me run this. So just simply I have declared two functions, display one and display two, and I have called my display one function. That's it. I haven't called my display two function, but you can see display one function is calling display two function. So that means you can call one function using another function. Okay. So a function can call another function. Is it clear, guys? So you can basically call one function using another function. Is it clear? You can check it out in the console also. You're calling display one function. It is internally calling display two function. So the display two function is printing this called a display two. Okay. Great. Yeah. Now, so let us start with something known as tasks. Okay. So we have discussed about functions. So basically, your functions should not have any delay statements or wait statements. It should execute basically in within zero time units, right? Now coming to your task can basically have delay statements declared. Okay, and it can have delays. Okay, let us see first of all the syntax of our task. Okay, so coming to the syntax of our task, we are going to use a keyword which is known as task. And here, task is not going to return anything. Okay, task is not going to have any written data type like your function. If you are going to call a task, it is going to execute. That's it. It is not going to return anything. Okay, and let's say the task name is display. Okay, I'm going to have this particular display task and it is going to have no arguments with it. Okay. And let's say after 10 nanoseconds, it is going to display some particular thing. Okay, dollar display. It is going to display some display statements and followed by end the task. Okay. Now, if you call this particular task display, it will execute whatever the statements which you have written inside this particular task and it will end. That's it. Okay. Now, let's say if you want to get any value, any written value from your task, what you're going to do when you are going to call a task, it is not going to return anything. Okay, only functions will return something if you are going to call a function. If it is not a void function, but your task by default, it is not going to return anything. But let's say if you want to get anything from your task, what you need to do? Can anyone tell? Is my question clear? Waiting for your responses. We can basically have. Okay. So my question is basically your function is going to return something. Okay. When you're going to call your function, it is going to return something. But for example, here it is going to return a variable of integer type. And if it is a void function, it is not going to return anything if you're going to call this function. And task by default, it is not going to return anything. If you're going to call a task, it is not going to return any value. But let's say if I want to return some value from this task, what should I do? Is my question. If I'm going to call a task, it should return some value. For that, what can I do? Is my question. Okay. So for getting something from my task, when I'm going to call my task, I can use a statement which is known as return. Okay. So I can use this keyword which is known as return for getting some value. Yes. And also I can use my arguments, output arguments I can use for getting some value from the task when I'm going to call my task. Okay. Is it clear, guys? Yes or no? Yes. So whatever the things which we have discussed in our functions, those and all will be applicable to our tasks, except the delay. Okay. So except the delay and return types. Return type task cannot have, and it can have input arguments and output arguments, and it cannot have any return type. Task cannot have any return type, and you cannot use void task something, right? Okay. And you can use a return keyword. Whatever the discussion which we have for the return keyword will be applicable to your tasks also. Okay. And the case one, variables declared outside the automatic function. So whatever the things which we have declared discussed for the automatic functions will be applicable to your automatic tasks also. Okay. And we also have pass by value, pass by name, pass by reference for our tasks also. Whatever the examples which we have taken for the functions, those examples which we can take for the task also. Okay. Everything will be same except the return data type and the delay. Okay. Now my next question is, let's say if I'm going to have a function, and inside this function, I'm trying to call a task. Is it going to happen or not? Will it be possible? If I'm going to have a function and this function is going to call a task, is it going to happen? Yes or no? Can we call a task using a function? Okay, what may be the reason? What may be the reason for that? Exactly. So basically, tasks can have delays, and functions should not uh, have any delays, and function should execute within zero time unit. Okay. So you can see the error over here. Functions cannot enable a task. Okay. That is the reason. So functions, if you don't have the delay also, it will not allow it. Okay. Task, if you, for example, this particular task is not having any delay, but it is not accepting it. So by default, the compiler will not allow it because task may have delays. Okay. So that is the reason this is not allowed at all. Okay. So basically your functions can call a function. A function can call another function, but your function cannot call a task. Now my next question is, can task can call a function? Is it possible? Can a task call a function? Yes, it can call a function. So that is about your functions and tasks. Is it clear, guys? Any doubts or any queries in this particular discussions? Please let me know in the chat box. Shall we move forward? Is it clear? Can function can have a function? If we don't have delay statement in task, now function can call a task. No, that is what the example I've shown you. So here in this example, I've declared a task without any delay, but also it is not accepting it. It is showing me the error that function cannot enable a task. Can we use always block inside a task? We can use always block inside the task. I don't think so. We can use always block because it's a separate procedural construct, right? Can function have a function? Yeah, that is what we have seen, right? The first example we have seen that only. Okay. Yes. Any other queries? Okay. Now let's say if I'm going to call this function. So I have a function display one and I'm going to call display one. So is it allowed? Can anyone tell me? Function void display one end function. Is it allowed or not? Yes or no? If I'm going to have a function display one and it is calling the display one again, is it allowed? What do you think? Any guess? Any idea? Okay, I got one response. What about others? What do you think? Okay, it's allowed basically. Okay, so this type of functions are known as recursive functions. That is, you're calling the same function within that particular function. This is known as recursive functions. Okay, yeah. So are they clear? Functions and tasks, are they clear? Shall we move forward? In the task, if we want to simulate on every positive, no, we are not going to use always at the rate positive of clock. We are only going to use the event that is at the rate positive of clock. So we are simply going to write at the rate positive of clock or at the rate negative of clock. Only the event we should write down, not always. Okay. Yeah. Now, so let us come back to our associative arrays, like I said previously, right? So we will see one example of associative arrays, and let us try to understand the functions which are present and the tasks which are present in this particular associative built-in uh, functions, right? So let us try to understand them. Now, so the very first function which we are going to have is what is this? Num. So what is this num? So this num is a function which is going to give you the number of items in the given array. Okay. Now, whether what do you think? The num is a function or a task? Any guess? What do you think? Num is a function or a task? It's a function. Okay. Basically, it is going to return you the number of items which are present, and this is a function. Okay. So how you are going to call this function? You are going to use this associative array name dot function. So that is, it is going to return you the number of items which are present in the particular array. Okay. Next we are going to use a function which is known as next we are going to use something known as exists. Okay. So this is going to check if a particular key exists in this particular dynamic array or not, or in this particular associative array or not. For example, what are we going to do if fruits underscore 10 dot exist, this is my associative array name dot exists of orange, this is a key which we are providing. If this is present, this is going to return 1. If this particular key is not present, this particular function is going to return 0. Okay. So that is how you're going to use this. Apart from a compiler, is any specific reason that function does not call the task? Yeah, that is what I've said, right? Tasks can have delays and functions will not, functions should not have any delays, and they should execute within 0 time unit. Okay. So if your function is going to call a task, then definitely it should wait for some amount of time because task may have the delay. Okay. That is the reason your functions cannot call a task. Okay, Venkatesh? Now, this is nothing but your exists and num. Okay. Are these two built-in functions clear? I think these are very simple. Exist and num, right? So one is going to return you the number of items which are present in the array, and another is going to check whether that particular what to say key is present or not. Okay, guys. Now let's say if I'm going to remove this particular argument, is it going to work or not? If I'm going to remove this particular argument in this particular exists, now is it going to work or not? So I'm going to get error. So what I'm going to get? So line number 18, it is showing the error. Why it is showing the error? What do you think? What happens if we can we call a function without providing any arguments? Is it possible to call a function without providing any arguments? We can call, but if the function should have any default arguments, then it's not a problem. If the function is already having the default arguments, then it's not a problem. Okay. So here the built-in function is expecting some argument. Exist is a built-in function which is expecting an argument that we need to provide. It's expecting an argument of key that we are providing so that it is running. Okay. Yeah. Next. Next is first. Okay. So this particular method is going to return you the first element in the particular associative array. Okay. Now, what are we going to do if you carefully observe? Here we have declared a string which is known as f. Okay. So this f we are passing over here. Okay. And let me show you the result over here. First underscore 10 dot first of apple is equal to 4. Okay. Here we have just provided the string, that is string variable f, but it is getting copied into this particular f and it is printing, see, first underscore 10 dot first of apple is equal to 4. In this f place, it is copying apple. So how it is happening? Can anyone tell me? What I'm doing? Fruits underscore 10 associative array dot first, and I'm passing a argument of string data type f. I'm passing the variable f. Okay. And I'm printing first underscore 10 dot first of percentage s is equal to percentage d, comma f is my variable. So this variable has a value now. It has a value of apple. How it is getting happened? What is the mechanism that is being present? What do you think? So this first is a method which will basically return you the first key which is present in that particular associative array. That is nothing but my apple in this particular associative array. It is returning into this variable. What do you think? So do you all remember we have used a keyword which is known as ref? Okay. So whenever we are going to call this particular function first, okay, let me show you over here. So whenever we are going to call this particular function first, it is having an argument of type ref index. Okay. So whenever we are calling this particular associative array, assoc and dot first, and if we are going to pass any variable in this particular example, let's say some, what is this in this particular example which is present, the variable name f. If we are going to pass this f, then what is going to happen? This particular function, if it is going to copy the first index into this particular variable that is being reflected over here, because we are going to use a keyword which is known as ref. That is how we are going to get in our simulation. Is it clear, guys? Are you all following me? Great. Okay. So that is the reason we have first discussed about functions, then we have came back to our uh, associative array built-in functions. Yeah. Only two people. What about others? Is it clear? Shall I explain one more time? Are you able to follow me? Okay. Next is last. Basically, this is also doing the same thing, but it is going to return you the last element which is present, and it is also going to have argument declared with ref keyword. That is why if you are going to pass a variable, that is being copied to your variable. Okay, if you are going to print that particular variable, it is printing the last element. Okay, and previous is also having the argument with the keyword ref present. Okay, that is the reason if you are going to call the function and you are going to pass a variable, that is being copied to this particular variable. Okay, and the next is basically going to give the next of your next item which is present. So here you are going to pass string as orange, so the next index which is present to your orange will is going to be printed. Okay, so these are the built-in methods which are present in your associative arrays: next, previous, last, and first, exist, and now. Okay, yes. So with this, we have completed our functions and tasks and built-in functions in our associative arrays. And from next session, we will try to start the discussion of our interfaces in SystemVerilog. That is a important, easy, and interesting topic that we are going to start. Okay. Yes. So that's about this particular session. If you have any doubts or any other queries you wanted to discuss, you can stay and discuss with me, or else you can leave.